Hi, my name is Michael Woodyer, and I'm a presidential candidate. And today I'm coming to you not to talk about anything that's happened to me, but I'm going to try to teach you a few things so you understand creation better. That God the Creator did create everything. Just follow with me and bear with me as I explain a few things to you that simplifies it, that nobody else understood until I emerged into my studies and further educated myself of understandings. Now, the question you might ask is, how does he understand this stuff and know this stuff, and how does he speak the things he's speaking that's such truth, to such accuracy, whilst other people are saying it? How do I know what they're saying given my situation at hand when I don't really watch TV anymore? I don't watch cable. I don't watch anything at all. All I've been doing is watching one single TV show to pass my time. Other than that, I'm not doing anything at all. So, do riddle me this. How do I know what other people are saying? And then you have to timeline it to what I'm saying to understand, how would I know what they're saying, but they're saying what I'm saying? Where am I learning it from if they're using my words? Now, I have no reason to lie about anything that I've been telling you so far on the first 6 parts of the video. Now I'm going to explain to you creation so all of you understand it just a little bit better. Now, I don't have an office and I don't have a proper setup to make everything just look a little bit better for you, to give you a better presentation. So I'm doing things a little bit low grade budget, one can say. I'm sorry for that. But the information that I'm giving you in all these videos is what actually matters being at first, so you can trust me. Trust is the most valuable thing in this world, because if you give it over to somebody, you can lose a lot if that person is not trustworthy. And I did not learn that lesson until my mid-30s, because I never had anybody backstab me as bad as these individuals did over in Florida. And it's very easy to tell what's going on if you throw up a satellite over me. You can see all the cars at a distance with their headlights on and they turn them off, trying to act inconspicuous like they're not doing it. Now, you can see them riding up behind my vehicle with their headlights on as well, without daylight running lights. This is something any government official could get access to find out that I'm telling the truth. So whilst you're looking at me and saying I'm doing something wrong, I'm looking at all of you and saying all of you are colluding, because it's obvious what's going on with me when I'm driving around, you can tell. Now, I'm sorry that I rambled off on that, but that's why I'm even doing these videos, because I'm so heartbroken over what's happened to me, being the conspiracy that's being held against me. I can't teach anything at all of all the things that I've learned because other people were stealing it, and I had to stop my studies on the heart. However, be that may, what I'm going to explain to you right now is creation simplified to where you can't say evolution exists. All there is adaptation. Nothing evolves. You must understand that. Nothing can evolve. It's adaptation. You have 2 parts to a creation. You have DNA RNA, which the DNA and RNA is a double helix, and it works together by creating proteins in your body, and it creates cells in your body. It basically rewrites information in your body continually, millions of times a day. Now, that's the first part to creation that overlaps the second part of creation of what you're made out of. Everything that's in existence. Now, trees, they just have DNA, they don't have RNA. However, everything has chromosomes. Just about. No, everything living has chromosomes. Period. Now, knowing that, chromosomes do not evolve. They only mutate. They become dysfunctional, and they backfire, and they cross with other chromosomes, and they misfire, and then they stop working, and they don't work inside your body properly. Chromosomes have to do with adaptation. A fern has the most chromosomes out of all plant life, and it can pretty much grow just about anywhere. Now, humans have chromosomes, DNA, and RNA. Now, the chromosomes in a human, how many you have, is not equivalent to the amount that is in a monkey. So when you say the DNA RNA chain is similar to a monkey, now the informational chain of how things are created can be the same. You can have the same amount of information growing in it, being on the type of intelligence of how high the consciousness can go, that can actually match on the coding. However, the chromosomes are not the same. Monkeys have different amount of chromosomes than humans, and so does everything else. Yet all dogs have the exact same chromosomes. All fish can have the exact same chromosomes. All birds can have the exact same chromosomes, and if one of the three does not, that means they're not related. But if you have a Doberman pinscher with an X amount of chromosomes, and you have a shepherd with an X amount of chromosomes and they're equivalent to the same, the DNA and RNA is what shifted and changed that kind to adaptation. Because your chromosomes is like your circuit board being your motherboard, okay? Your DNA RNA is like your hard drive that's creating everything of all your information in your body and reproducing new cells. Your cells in your body, this is advanced biology, die off every 7 years. So they only have a shelf life of 7 years, and then they basically cease to exist because they basically fall apart and crumble in the body, and then it just recycles and makes more again. That's the simplified version of it. However, if you understand creation and everything that has symbiotic connections in the universe, where one thing can't exist without the other, like pressure inside the atmosphere. Inside the atmosphere, you have, as I said, 100,000 pascals, which is considered 1 bar in Earth. That is the positive pressure from the Van Halen belt pushing down inside the Earth because it makes a container around the Earth. However, the outside is negative. It's a negative energy. So when you have meteors or comets come by, the negative polarity will push the rocks away so nothing can really enter the atmosphere. And if something does enter the atmosphere, it burns up because the heat of the conductive activity or electromagnetic field of the Earth will cook it, evaporate it until it ceases to exist and it goes on fire. There was a meteor that came in through Russia quite a few years back, and most of it burned up before it hit the ground. Not many things enter our atmosphere because of how powerful our electromagnetic field is. Now, you can't have air without trees, and trees can't grow without an electromagnetic field. So if you have an electromagnetic field and that was activated first, how did everything get inside of it? Don't be trying to tell me meteors crashed on the Earth and made all this and that. Granite, when it gets melted down from volcanic eruption, whenever granite is created, it's not granite anymore. It becomes something else. It can't be melted down and recreated again. That's not the way that works. So if you understand creation and the way everything works by a different amount of chromosomes, you will see that everything is actually quite spectacular and beautiful the way everything was made and the symbiotic need of each other. Now, I'm going to break it down to a few different things. And as I said, it's very simple to understand creation within 30 minutes to an hour of an explanation of everything. When it comes to atoms, for every equal electron, there's an equal proton, but never the same amount of neutral neutrons. But there's a gluonic force that holds between the proton and the neutral neutron that stabilizes inside the atom. The electron rotates randomly and it creates a force field inside the atom, and it keeps a container in it. So when atoms start connecting together, it makes a symbiotic connection, which one would call in scientific mainstream science a covalent bond. And when many of those are put together, it's like pixels on a screen. You're creating an image. Everything is made of atoms, but there is no empty space inside the atom. That is not true. There's a gluonic force that's inside the atom that's not being seen. So when the atom is broken apart, given any type of experiments with it, the gluonic force always breaks away between the neutral neutron and the proton because the gluonic force is inside the whole atom. So if you penetrate it, the gluonic force breaks away. Now you can remove the energy of the gluonic force inside the atom, and you could actually truly see through something transparency through something like fluors. That can be removed and separated inside the atom, and you could actually be able to see through a wall. If you created something of such a technology, you would be able to see right through it, but you wouldn't be able to pass through it. But you can remove that gluonic force. Science up to about a decade ago used to say that the atom is empty space. They were totally wrong on that. That's not even close to right. I studied the NASA website pretty thoroughly with everything they were saying whenever it came to everything, and they didn't actually have the answers about 4 or 5 years ago. But there's a gluonic force, and there's a gluonic force inside the Earth as well. Given the positive pressure inside, everything that you see that's empty space around you, this air, there's a gluonic force everywhere, even in outer space, and this is what they like to call dark matter. All they're actually finding is an energy grid that's leveled above another energy grid. So given frequency, vibration, such as atoms, every time they increase, the vibration changes, the frequency changes, and the energy increases. Such as the Earth, there's a balance to all the energy around you. Molecules only exist, not all of them, the majority of them, 80% from sea level, 10 miles up, is 80% of all your molecules on Earth. 20 miles up is 99% all molecules. It's 61 to 63 miles to get to past the exosphere to get outside our inside of our first gravitational field. I'm sorry, I'm going back on my studies in my head. I'm not reading notes. I'm going off of what I learned whenever I studied daily, every day, until I understood it. Now, outside the universe, there's 1.6 pascals. I said this earlier in videos. That means there's a container in outer space, but there are no molecules. There isn't any. So there won't be any G-force. You can't get a sonic boom without molecules. It won't happen. Sound only travels through molecules. If you're in space and something explodes and you're a few feet away, you won't hear it. You can't hear it because there's nothing for the energy to ride on, because it's not the same type of energy. However, there's a balance to it. The moon is not a stabilizer for the Earth. That's not the way that works. It does not stabilize the oceans with its random rotation around the Earth. It barely has its own energy. It's just a moving rock with a very low electromagnetic field that is stuck on Earth's gravitational pull and push the same and intertwined with the sun, because the sun's energy radiates all the way out to Jupiter, which Jupiter spins at 27,263 miles per hour, I believe, and supposedly has 67 moons. That's not true. Moons, when they were created by God, were round. If the moon is not round, it's not a moon. It's just a rock that got trapped. The asteroid belt can lose rocks inside of it, and they can break away, and sometimes they get trapped in the gravitational pull of Jupiter when they go that direction. But if they come toward Earth, they just usually get pushed away, and or the electromagnetic field between the sun and the Earth pulls it astray away from us. And that's been going on since the Earth was created, or however long you think the Earth has existed. Because if you understand history, with the Egyptians, with their double helix staff where they held it and acted like they were gods whenever they had Egyptian leaders, they understood vibration, the 7 Hermetic principles. They already understood the vibration inside an atom. How did they examine this if their technology wasn't advanced? How did they plot the universe being constellations so far away when our telescopes can't even reach currently everywhere that they've plotted, which they wrote down in stone? Being whatever you want to say, cuneiform, or however they wrote it up, being their dialect and language. Because you can make a language any which way. All you need is sounds, some murmurs, and then you can put together a language, and anybody that makes languages for TV knows this. So we've had a diversity of languages since the 6,000 or 10,000 years between that range that Earth was created, because it's not that old. Because if you understand everything, you'll know that limestone has a decay rate, which Florida was a cliff. Do you understand? There's caves and caverns underneath before Noah's flood, and there was a great flood on the Earth because the oceans of the deep broke open, and it flooded everything all the way up to Mount Everest, and that is true. This is something I learned from somebody else. There's petrified clams and everything at the top of Mount Everest. That is something I learned from somebody else. If I learn something from somebody else, I'll always give them credit, because they deserve credit. If they spent their life, their timeline, their breath of air on learning what they learned, they deserve their credit. However, I'm looking to the side because I was going to use a board to explain all this, but I'll wait till I'm more situated and I can be a little bit professional with my teachings. And as I was learning stuff and I was studying, I was typing it up rather than making videos, and then I got flagged by cyber stalking, and then that's when the occult harassment started. I can't help but bring that into this because that's why I'm making the videos, because I didn't want to be on videos. I wanted to teach behind closed doors, let everybody else get the fame, and just have a good life going around and fixing things that I can fix. Because if you come to me with a problem, I usually always have something for everything. And if you don't believe me, ask me a question and see if I'm being truthful and forthright to you, and see if it actually works. Looking from the outside in, if I wasn't being sabotaged in my life, I would be pretty high up on the pyramidal chain of the world currently in these affairs of life. However, if you want to say, I'm looking to the side because I'm thinking about what else to talk about. Viruses and bacteria, I studied that. Bacteria can go dormant. Now, they say they can go dormant up to 1,000 years. That could be true. Bacteria could live under such atmospheres to where it can be in such heat of negative degrees and positive degrees of Fahrenheit, being Celsius or however you're measuring it, metric or whatever, hot and cold. However, given that fact, viruses cannot live under certain circumstances, such as said during the current plague that's going on. Light can destroy the virus. Infrared light is what I was hearing, and some other things such as bleach or chlorine or something of that nature. Look, viruses cannot stay dormant that long. So if it's being spread by something. It doesn't just go into the atmosphere and flow around everywhere and just sit there and wait for the next person to come in contact with it. It only has a shelf life of an X amount of time. I'm sorry, but that's not the way it works. The virus that mutates protein cells is the hepatitis 1, 2, and 3, which is HIV virus. It only mutates 4 protein cells, and that's it. Give or take a few. I can't remember all my studies, but it only mutates a few. It doesn't mutate all of them. It's an infection, was what a virus is. So it has to infect something in order for it to survive, because it needs a source of energy to keep itself alive. Bacteria can lay dormant because it can go into a hibernation state and be somewhere as long as it's under the atmosphere that won't destroy it. But some bacteria can live under excruciating atmosphere opposed to a balanced atmosphere. That's true. But if you also go to isotopes, let me carry this on. I'll make these videos and I'll be very precise when I explain everything in the future, and I'll just explain the bits and pieces to teach. Isotopes are from radiation. Radiation actually will go into something of a living organism and cause mutations inside of it. Isotopes have 2 shelf lives. It has a half-life of typically 300 years. I'm talking about nuclear blasts. And then something of 3,000 years. Give or take the timeline, I'm not exact sure on it, but it has 2 shelf lives. That I am for sure about it. I'm positive, period. Now, whenever you look at the map of the United States of America and all over the world, there's indentations on every continent except for Greenland. It actually looks like nuclear blasts has happened before all around the earth. And now you might say that's a conspiracy. But that's not true. Because if you actually do the research, there's conclusive evidence that that's happened before. We've had nuclear fallout. This has all happened before. Remember when they said there was a hole in the ozone layer? They were doing nuclear blasts in outer space, and it was tearing up our electromagnetic field because they were using it to pass through the asteroid belt given in the universe. They were blowing everything up so they can go through it. And that was causing issues because they kept doing experiments, but the electromagnetic field of the Earth healed itself and it closed back up, so we don't have that anymore. But the fallout from the radiation was coming through. And everything pretty much around the Earth has a little bit of radiation in it, and they try to act like that's natural. It's not natural. You've had nuclear wars in the past 5,000 or 6,000 years at least a half a dozen times, I am assuming from my studies. Technology does not take that long to advance. I'm sorry. Steam, once you understand that water can't be compressed, dihydrogen monoxide, you can use it for energy, such as heat. You don't think people have been the same intelligence since they were created at the beginning of time? It's the same brains that you had when you were created. You just think differently, being what your studies were and what you've been in tune with to learn. That's all it is between one person and another. And I do apologize that this might be a little bit of a sloppy video. But when you have the Hydron Collider breaking apart atoms such as electrons, protons, and this and examining it and all those sorts of things, all they're doing is taking a piece of glass, shattering it, and trying to get the information from a little corner of it when you need the whole thing for the information. It's like taking a piece of grass and slicing a piece of it and examining it and then saying, what is this? That's all you're doing with that. Now, what they were trying to do with the Hydron Collider, which it was actually invented in 1986 during Ronald Reagan's administration in Texas, and then they shut it down supposedly and they moved it. Not true. What they were trying to do is take lead, remove the proton, neutron, degrade it, and make it into gold. Now, you can remove energy from something, but you can't place energy in something. So that's something that they could do over time, being technology's advancement. That's something they could figure out. But to recreate the Big Bang, if you understand that when two stars come together, or energies come together, if you understand that they can't, there is no such thing as a Big Bang. You have such things as neutron stars, you have such things as just plain old, you have smaller stars and you have larger stars, which you make supernovas and novas when they implode and explode. Now, they don't lose all their energy. What happens is inside the star, there's a black hole. And that's why it's trapped there. It's being pulled by its gravitational pull behind the universe. It's actually trapped there. It's amazing. And I don't have to be there to understand it because I do understand it. And whenever that star loses a certain amount of electrical activity of a field, it doesn't have to dissipate all the way down to 1% of energy and then it explodes. It's not true. What happens is when it implodes and it explodes, it leaves the black hole there, and that's why they can examine it, because it's always there. No stars are created in the universe. No one ever sees a star. No nebula. You don't have pressure to create any of that stuff. Noble gases and gases. It just doesn't happen. However, when stars explode, what happens is they feed the universe with plasma, and it gives out energy. And they're actually a clock. Being, if you're looking from high up to down, from God to down, you're looking at the stars because that might be your clock for the universe, because none of them were ever created. It doesn't happen. Whatever they try